The alarm that woke Ghost was silent, a faint vibration pulsing through the reinforced plating beneath his boots. He lifted his head, mask whirring as its internal sensors adjusted to the thin mountain air. Dawn stretched across the valley in pale ribbons of gold, brushing against the long suspension bridge that hung between two cliffs like a challenge carved into the world itself. It was beautiful in a way he rarely allowed himself to acknowledge, yet all he could think about was how soon it would be soaked in blood. Archer stood a few paces ahead, hood drawn up, posture relaxed but never unprepared. The man seemed carved from patient stone, every motion deliberate, every breath measured. Ghost admired that in him. Where Ghost's instincts demanded immediate action, Archer's restraint grounded them both. It was one reason they worked as well as they did, though neither ever said it aloud. "They're closing in," Archer murmured, voice low but steady. His bow rested in his hand like an extension of his will, its limbs folded, awaiting the moment it would unfurl into lethal precision. 3 scout units, based on the pattern. Ghost checked his display. 3 confirmed. Larger force, still in orbit, waiting to deploy when they get a read on our resistance. He paused. They'll get their answer soon. Archer's hood shifted, just enough to suggest a faint smile. And it won't be the one they want. The message they had received hours earlier still echoed between them. 15,000 alien assassins mobilized to kill Earth's senior diplomat, who even now was being moved toward a secure evacuation point. Every military unit was out of position, every defensive line unprepared for a strike of this scale. There was no time to assemble a proper response. No room for hesitation, no options left except them. 2 specialists, 2 weapons, 2 chances. Ghost accepted that math easily. Archer accepted it differently, but both accepted it. The bridge ahead swayed gently with the wind. Its ropes creaked, as though remembering centuries of unforgiving storms. Below it, a river foamed between jagged boulders worn smooth by time. The location wasn't chosen for beauty. It was chosen because only fools or legends would attempt an assault through such a narrow, exposed path. And their enemies were no fools. Ghost stepped forward and rested a gloved hand against the wooden beam. "This is where we hold them." Archer nodded, rolling his shoulders. "This is where we make them regret coming." A faint rumble trembled through the air, far too rhythmic to be natural. The first scouts were moving fast. Ghost's mask sharpened, isolating heat signatures threading through the tree-line at the far end of the bridge. Humanoid shapes, elongated limbs, flexible carapace armor designed for silence and speed. Killers engineered for surgical extermination. Ghost steadied his rifle. Archer unfolded his bow, the limbs spreading open until it looked like a predatory machine awakening. "They'll test us first," Archer said. "Let them." The first assassin stepped into view, black armor glistening faintly beneath the growing light. It paused, scanning as if tasting the air. Ghost fired. 1 shot, clean, precise, final. The creature collapsed before understanding it had been seen. Archer drew an arrow, knocked it, and fired in one fluid movement. The projectile arced, split mid-flight into 3 glimmering shards, and embedded themselves in the chests of the scouts behind the first. They fell silently, their bodies slipping between planks and tumbling into the mist below. Ghost exhaled. 4 down. 14,996 to go. Archer replied, though without humor. More shapes emerged from the forest's edge, this time moving with urgency. The first wave had failed, and the assassins adapted quickly. Unlike most species Earth had fought, Ghost picked targets with disciplined efficiency, each shot intended to preserve momentum rather than halt it entirely. Archer's arrows whistled through the air, some explosive, some binding, some designed to pierce armor like paper. The wooden planks beneath them quivered as bodies fell. The air filled with the sharp scent of ionized metal and scorched resin. Ghost felt the old adrenaline rise, not the reckless kind, but the controlled, sharpened focus he had been trained to channel. He counted every bullet, every step, every second. Minutes passed, long and fierce. Then, suddenly the assault stopped. The cliffside fell quiet, broken only by wind sliding through pine needles. Ghost adjusted his stance, scanning the far tree line. Archer lowered his bow, but kept the string tense. "They're reassessing," Ghost said. "They'll come harder next." Ghost's mask flickered with a new data stream. He cursed softly. "Second wave incoming. Larger. Coordinated. They're not wasting time." Archer inhaled slowly, letting the breath settle his shoulders. "We knew this wouldn't be simple." "We knew," Ghost agreed. He checked his ammunition, then looked toward the Diplomat's distant evacuation route. "They just have to stay ahead of schedule. That's all that matters." Archer stepped beside him, boots firm against the trembling wood. "And we make sure they get that time." Ghost considered him for a quiet moment. There were different men with different histories, different ghosts of their own. Yet every operation they'd survived left them more aligned, more precise, more dangerous together than apart. He felt no fear, only purpose. A distant howl rose through the valley. Alien, sharp, a rallying cry for the next assault. Ghost lifted his rifle. Archer lifted his bow. "Ready?" Ghost asked. Archer's tone was steady. "We warned them." Ghost nodded once. "Now we're coming." And as the next wave emerged from the forest's edge, both men stepped forward to meet it. Ghost advanced into the tree line first, boots sinking into soft moss as the bridge disappeared behind them. The forest stretched wide and ancient, its towering pines leaning inward like silent witnesses bracing for what was about to unfold. The air was colder here, sharper, carrying the metallic scent of alien blood mingled with the natural rot of fallen needles. Archer moved beside him with quiet precision, his hood brushing low branches, his bow compacted against his back until needed. They had left the narrow choke point in order to intercept the assassins before they could spread into the valley below, and the transition from exposed bridge to dense woodland heightened every instinct Ghost possessed. "They'll use the canopy," Ghost said, scanning the branches above. His mask tracked faint distortions, tiny bends in light, irregular temperature patches, anything a trained eye could convert into information. Archer murmured, "Perfect hunting ground for them, but also for us." The first ambush was subtle, almost elegant. A cluster of assassins descended without sound, claws extended, their chameleon armor flickering as they struck. Ghost fired before one even touched the ground, his reflexes merging with the targeting overlays in his vision. Archer rolled aside, drawing and releasing an arrow in one fluid motion. It detonated in a burst of concussive force, sending two assassins spiraling back through the underbrush. Ghost caught a third with a short burst to the chest, feeling the recoil thud into his shoulder. They expected us to retreat across the bridge, and instead we walked into their nest. Archer replied, voice steady even as another arrow shot from his fingers. Ghost knew Archer was right. They hadn't chosen this terrain because it favored them. They'd chosen it because they couldn't allow the assassins to slip past and surround the Diplomat during evacuation. Every meter of ground they held mattered. Every second they delayed mattered even more. The forest darkened as cloud cover rolled in overhead, dimming the sun until the valley felt like the hollowed-out core of some forgotten world. Ghost's mask compensated, brightening shadows and highlighting movement. He spotted a shape darting through the branches and fired, the shot ripping bark from the trunk as the assassin tumbled downward. Archer's arrow finished it before it hit the earth. "They're adapting faster than expected," Ghost muttered. "They trained for this kind of terrain," Archer said. "We didn't." Ghost gave a small, humorless laugh. "Good thing we cheat." Archer didn't respond, but Ghost caught the flicker of amusement in his posture. The ground sloped upward, leading them toward a narrow ridge overlooking the valley. As they climbed, the assassins pressed harder, emerging in coordinated packs. Some carried compact shields that absorbed bullets like sand. Others used dart-like drones that streaked toward Ghost and Archer with murderous intent. Ghost shot the drones mid-flight, each one bursting into shards of blue energy. Archer's arrows switched to EMP charges, disrupting the shields long enough for Ghost's rounds to punch through. But the cost was rising. Ghost's armor showed impact fractures along the left side, glowing faintly where energy blades had grazed it. Archer's bow crackled irregularly each time he drew the string, the weapon overworked by the demands of constant, rapid fire. Despite it, Archer moved with relentless composure, each shot carefully chosen, every shift in stance a calculated expression of control. "Armor status?" Archer asked. Ghost shook out stiffness in his arm. "Holding. Yours." Archer tapped the bow lightly. "Functional for now." They reached the ridge just as another squad of assassins emerged, moving with unnerving synchronization. Their motions were fluid, almost predatory. Ghost dropped to one knee, firing in measured bursts. Archer took the opposite flank, sending arrows that curved mid-flight to strike enemies attempting to circle behind them. The fight lasted longer than the others, forcing both men to stretch their abilities to their limit. When the last assassin collapsed, the forest fell silent once more. Ghost exhaled hard, feeling the tremor in his muscles. "They're wearing us down." "They need to," Archer said quietly. "They know they don't have long." Ghost stared down into the valley below. The trees parted just enough to reveal flashes of movement. Massive, coordinated shapes assembling deeper in the forest. A full battalion, perhaps more. Ghost felt the weight of the sight settle against his ribs like a slow, crushing force. Archer stepped beside him. "You're thinking about the Diplomat." Ghost nodded. "If we fail here, everything escalates. The Coalition gets their war. Billions die." Archer drew in a steady breath. "Then we don't fail." Ghost turned to him, studying the comm behind the hood. Archer wasn't born for warfare. Ghost knew that. The man had once devoted his life to peace negotiations, scientific research, and preserving ecosystems like the one they fought in now. Wielding a bow was never supposed to define him. Yet something had shifted in him years ago, something Ghost had never asked about, but had always understood. They both carried paths shaped by grief and necessity. They both fought to make sure others wouldn't face the same choices. Movement flickered below, a ripple through the forest floor that signaled mass deployment. "They're mobilizing everything they have left in this quadrant," Ghost said. Archer adjusted his grip on his bowstring. "Then this ridge becomes the line." Ghost considered the idea. They had higher ground, better sight lines, and enough remaining ammunition to carve a brutal path through any force that tried to climb toward them. It wasn't perfect, but it was workable. "We hold here," Ghost said. Archer nodded once. "And if they break through?" Ghost's voice hardened. "They won't." The forest rustled as the next wave drew nearer, larger and more relentless than anything before. Ghost steadied his rifle. Archer raised his bow. The ridge hummed with tension, the air charged with the weight of what was coming. Archer spoke softly, almost reflective. "If we fall." "We won't," Ghost interrupted. Archer finished anyway. "Then let's make sure they remember why 2 humans were enough to stop an army." Ghost felt a rare swell of respect. "Agreed." The first shapes crested the ridgeline, shadowed and swift. Ghost fired. Archer loosed an arrow. And together, they braced for the storm that would define the fate of their world. The enemy surged up the ridge in a relentless tide, their movements precise and merciless, as though driven by a single shared instinct to overwhelm the last barrier between them and their target. Ghost felt the ground tremble beneath their synchronized advance. He steadied his rifle, ignoring the burn in his shoulder, and fired into the oncoming mass. Each shot struck cleanly, dropping one assassin only for 2 more to climb past the body. Archer loosed arrow after arrow, the projectiles slicing through the dim air with lethal curvature, each impact exploding in a controlled burst that sent fragments of alien armor scattering across the stones. Despite the overwhelming force, neither man stepped back. Ghost's boots rooted into the earth with stubborn defiance. Archer shifted like a dancer weaving between shadows, every movement purposeful. Yet the assassins pressed harder, adapting, tightening their formation until they moved like the edge of a single blade. Ghost switched to controlled bursts as his ammunition waned, conserving every round. He shot into the gaps Archer carved with his arrows, creating a rhythm that seemed almost rehearsed. Archer inhaled deeply with each draw of his bowstring, the faint glow of its powered limbs flickering with strain. Ghost noticed the hesitation, the fractional delay in Archer's pull, and felt a cold knot tighten in his chest. The weapon wouldn't hold much longer. A cluster of assassins leapt toward them in perfect unison, their blades shimmering. Archer rolled aside and released a quick trio of arrows that detonated mid-air, sending the attackers tumbling backward. Ghost finished the survivors with rapid shots, breathing hard as he recalibrated his aim. The ridge shook again, this time from a larger concentration of forces moving behind the initial wave. "They're committing everything," Ghost said, keeping his voice steady in spite of rising exhaustion. "They have to," Archer replied. His breathing was controlled, but the strain seeped through the edges of his tone. "If they can't break us now, they lose momentum." Ghost reloaded his final magazine and crouched lower. "We don't let them." The next surge was impossibly coordinated. A dozen assassins sprinted in a curved formation to flank them, while a group of shield carriers advanced directly up the ridge. Two assassins vaulted over their allies, descending from above with energy blades. Ghost shot one in mid-air, but the second landed close enough that he felt the heat of its weapon slash past. He ducked, rolled, and struck with the butt of his rifle before firing a round into its throat. Archer moved beside him, bow abandoned in favor of a compact blade he drew from his belt. He intercepted an assassin attempting to slip past Ghost's blind spot, parrying its strike before driving his weapon between its armor plates. Their proximity in combat felt seamless, each protecting where the other could not, each anticipating motions born from years of trust. But the assassins kept coming. Ghost felt his rifle stutter. Empty. He dropped it without hesitation and pulled the twin combat knives from his chest harness. The blades gleamed under the fractured light as he sprinted into the next wave, meeting them with a fury sharpened into precision. Every strike he delivered was purposeful, honed, fueled by the refusal to fail. Archer joined him, his blade flashing as he moved through the chaos with instinctive grace. Without the range offered by his bow, he fought closer, forcing himself to adapt. Ghost saw him stumble, but recover instantly, saw the flicker of pain he tried to hide. Archer's determination burned brighter than any injury. They carved through the attackers until the bodies piled across the ridge, the ground slick with fragments of alien armor and dark, iridescent blood. The surviving assassins hesitated, recalculating, adjusting to the humans' unbroken resistance. Ghost used the heartbeat of stillness to breathe, though every muscle in his body protested. Then the final wave appeared. 100 assassins advanced in a near-perfect formation, moving as one organism. Their armor glowed faintly as though powered by a shared current. Ghost's stomach tightened. These were elites, strategists, executioners, warriors engineered to end wars swiftly. Archer wiped blood from his jaw with the back of his hand. "This is the last line." Ghost gripped his knives tighter. "Then it's ours." The elite struck with blistering speed. Ghost ducked beneath a blade, countering with a slash to the hamstring. He twisted, kicking an attacker back before spinning into another. Archer fought directly behind him, blade catching sparks as he deflected a flurry of strikes. They fought with every remaining ounce of strength, each movement fueled by resolve more than endurance. Ghost took a heavy hit to the ribs, the impact knocking him to one knee. He stabbed upward blindly, feeling his blade pierce flesh. Archer stepped in front of him, blocking a descending strike with his forearm guard and countering with a precise thrust. One by one, the elites fell. Not quickly, not easily, but inevitably. Ghost rose to his feet as the last assassin collapsed, his chest heaving with ragged breaths. Archer stood hunched, one hand pressed against his thigh where blood seeped through torn fabric, but his eyes remained sharp. For the first time since the assault began, silence returned. Heavy, absolute, almost reverent. Ghost scanned the valley. No movement, no heat signatures, no signals. The ridge was theirs. Archer straightened slowly. "Is it over?" Ghost checked his readings again. "For us, yes. For them, oh." A faint hum echoed overhead, Earth's reinforcements arriving too late to matter. Archer glanced up, then back to Ghost, an unspoken satisfaction settling between them. Ghost retrieved his fallen rifle and slung it across his back. The Diplomat is safe. Evacuation complete. Archer nodded, the tension draining from his shoulders. Then we did what we came to do. Ghost looked down at the forest, now eerily still. We warned them. Archer gave a weary, determined smile. Now we're coming. The two men descended from the ridge, battered but unbroken, disappearing into the trees as silently as they had emerged, leaving behind only the undeniable truth of what two humans could accomplish when the fate of their world depended on them.